afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin Show for your Thursday afternoon edition. A disheveled, tired Thursday afternoon. Hope you all did well. I was up late last night. I went to go see Tool up in Los Angeles. Everybody hasn't seen a Tool show. It's dark, it's heavy, but it's a visual, stunning masterpiece. Pretty amazing concert. Anyway, got back late last night and even made some trades early this morning. So we will walk you through some of that, but I do want to start off with talking about our Coinbase earnings here. As you can see, I put a nice little guy with whiplash, being stunned at the moves that happened with Coinbase in the after-hours session. Presently up about 12.8% in the after-hour on the heels of a 3.3% up day to begin with. So let's go to a 1-minute time frame just to show you why I posted the picture of whiplash and why I'm always telling people stay away from earnings announcements. So here is in light blue what happened after hours, and you can see before that just the regular market hours look almost like nothing happened. But the ranges are what are interesting. So right as the market closed, Coinbase jumped about 2% instantly, and the earnings weren't even out yet. And then all of a sudden it fell 9.39%, and earnings weren't even out yet. So this is just people jockeying for position, trying to anticipate which way it's going to go. Then they reported their earnings, which were fantastic, and over the next 42 minutes, it's rallied 26%. Pretty impressive rally. Now, who knows where we'll end up with when the markets open tomorrow, but all in all, this does paint a very good picture for the cryptocurrency space because this is really, at this point, the only centralized crypto exchange that's publicly traded. Now, there was talk about Kraken going public last year. That didn't happen. Maybe they'll go public this year, but given the issue they had with the SEC last year regarding their staking process and program where they paid a big $30 million fine, and maybe that's going to get held back a little bit. Sound is choppy and skippy. I'm looking at my numbers. Actually, I have no drop frame rates and everything looks smooth on my end. So I'm hoping that nobody else is experiencing choppy, skippy audio. Hopefully it's all good. If it is, then maybe Eric, you need to refresh. A lot of times it's system resources. You know, if you go Control-Alt-Delete, you can go to Task Manager and you'll see if your system is running really strong. What's crazy is if you do Control-Alt-Delete and you look and see what processes are running on your computer, if you're using Google is going to use up a tremendous amount of resources on your computer. If you have just a little bit of RAM, let's say you have 4 megs of RAM, you're going to have skips going out here. Awesome, cool. All right, sorry, thank you guys for the feedback, but Eric, it's got to be your computer. All right, let me go through some of the numbers. I don't have my usual source. They didn't update their page. I actually get the numbers from CNBC because they do a pretty good job of reporting those numbers. Didn't get it, but Guru Focus did one, which I thought was interesting. And this is looking back at Coinbase, going back to the last couple of years, back to 2020. And it looks like their glory days really were back in 2021, into late 2020. Let me see if I can draw on here. I always screw this up. But over here is really the good times, right? Not only did you have very high revenues, but you had great net income and your EBITDA was real high. You were making $1 billion. Then all of a sudden in 2021, when the crypto market just imploded, we went through this period where net income and EBITDA were underwater, below the line, even though they had revenues coming in. This quarter, though, check out the surge in Q4. They went from under $1 billion worth of revenues, looks like about $800 billion worth of revenues, to $3.2 billion worth of revenues in the quarter. And a lot of that came on the heels of what they're saying is subscriptions, right? Subscription services and people really buying the other pieces that Coinbase is selling. I have a feeling it's going to be because of a lot of institutional involvement getting ready for the Coinbase or the Bitcoin spot ETF. So that's great news. But notice down at the bottom, your EBITDA, your net income, it's barely up. It's really just barely getting into positive territory. Now, the expectations for this quarter were earnings of 1 penny, which would be great because the previous numbers were all negative. So anything back into positive territory for Coinbase is a pretty good sign. That said, when they reported their earnings, they came out at $1.04 per share. I mean, that's a significant beat on those earnings front. Let me see if I can get it. Even my normal site that I get my earnings from is not updating today for some reason. So let me see if I can get theirs updated. But yeah, they were expected to make 1 penny. They came out at $1.04, which grand scheme of things is fantastic. Actually, here it is right there. That's a 1,200% beat on earnings. Again, they're up. It says here they're up 13%, but they were actually down a little bit from that. So a fantastic posting here for Coinbase. Now, what are some of the things they cited? Well, one of the pieces I looked at, and I have to dig deeper because this just came out, was they had a 78% increase in year-over-year growth due to subscriptions. And as they grow out this business, as more companies look to add cryptocurrencies to maybe their corporate holdings or add those to institutional products like ETFs or mutual funds, it looks like Coinbase is going to be the place to go because they're the one that the regulators aren't going to have an issue with because they're focusing on safety, right? Regulators are focusing on safety. Coinbase is the only publicly traded company. So if you are, let's say, the ARK fund, right? You're Cathie Wood and you want to be in the good graces of regulators, you're going to go with a company that's publicly traded because that's going to be safe and has oversight to it to, custodian your cryptocurrency, purchase your cryptocurrency, or set up your institutional trading accounts with cryptocurrency with Coinbase. So I see these numbers getting better going forward as there's more adoption and more people start to utilize Coinbase. Now, the only thing that I think would threaten this is if we do start to see other exchanges go public. I have not heard one word about Gemini potentially going public, but if Gemini decides to go public, you may see a little bit of attention taken away from Coinbase. So you've got really three exchanges in the U.S. other than Binance, and Binance is kind of feels like it's on its way out, at least at Binance.us. So you have Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken. Kraken and Gemini aren't publicly traded, and that could come here soon, and again, take away a little bit of market share as the Winklevoss twins from Gemini are always seem to be movers and shakers. So that was a good piece, seeing that 78% increase in subscriptions. But there's more. There's actually a lot more to this. And I just took some really quick snippet headlines that I saw that was good. So their net income was $95 million for the full year of 2023. $95 million really doesn't seem like a lot. Adjusted EBITDA achieved nearly $1 billion in adjusted EBITDA. So I thought that was just kind of a strange one. So how do I have net income of only $95 million, but my EBITDA is $1 billion? The numbers seem weird to me. Revenue, total revenue reach was $3.1 billion with significant increase in subscriptions and services revenue. That services revenue will be holding for other firms. Balance sheets, they strengthened with $5.7 billion in total US dollar resources and a 12% reduction in total debt. This is going to be one of the unsung heroes here. They're gaining more assets on their balance sheet and they're reducing their debt. That's a recipe for success for shareholders. Yeah, Ashton, right now in the U.S., you could make the argument that Coinbase is the monopoly. And, if you're antitrust, they're not a monopoly, right? I can go to Gemini, I can go to Kraken, I can go to Binance. However, they're the monopoly, in my opinion, on being the only publicly traded one. They've got regulators looking down their neck every single thing they do. So there's a competitive advantage to that. It's a tricky move. If you go public as a company, you have a lot more scrutiny on your balance sheets, what you're doing. All your numbers are going to be much more scrutinized than if you're privately held like Gemini or Kraken. So we will see. Sly Dog, I don't have $95 million. Neither do I. Maybe sometime down the road. And a couple other points here. One thing that's been a really good piece for Coinbase is not only the amount of people that they brought in, developers and very intelligent minds, but they're continually building and working on new product innovation. So they launched Coinbase International Exchange and a derivatives product through Coinbase Financial Markets. So now you can trade different crypto futures. That product line will probably continue to expand. And as time goes on, I question this Coinbase Financial Markets, right? And the reason I question it is if we have the SEC being careful to not approve things like to label things as securities or not, if Coinbase offers futures on something that the SEC deems is a security, then Coinbase can get in trouble here. So it might be a slow start. I have a feeling Coinbase will probably just start listing some anyway and say I'm sorry later when the SEC decides to shut some of them down. But since they've pointed at things like, what's a good example? It wasn't Solana. There's some that they actually labeled Cardano as a security, right? The SEC is mentioned as Cardano being a security. Well, if that's the case, then if Coinbase creates Cardano futures products, which should be traded, they could get in trouble because now it's a futures product on an unregistered security. That would be illegal. So this could be it's huge in one sense. It opens the door to all of you who are futures traders that want to get exposure to different cryptocurrencies through the futures market. But then again, it opens the door to maybe potential litigation. So I'm pretty sure that Coinbase will be on top of this going forward, but it's just something to think about as we move ahead. Now, it's not just futures. I think that the next big shoe to drop here is going to be options markets for cryptocurrencies. So there's a site out there called Deribit, which you can't access from the US. You have to have a VPN to get there, but they do offer options. And I think probably in the next year or two, you will see a fairly robust options ecosystem developing for cryptocurrency and digital assets. So exciting there. And lastly, I wanted to look at the regulatory stuff because I thought this was interesting. There have been a lot of good things and some that aren't great. One of the big pieces that they were talking about in their document on press releases, they made strides towards regulatory clarity. And honestly, if any one of you, hey Tony, if any one of you is a fan of crypto, then you should by proxy be a fan of Coinbase. I know that they're not the best exchange. They're trying to make money. I get it. You got to maximize shareholder growth. Fine. But the initiatives and the amount of money that Coinbase is spending in legal fees and lobbying to get bills, initiatives to educate our elected officials on digital assets is phenomenal. The fact that they stood toe-to-toe with the SEC and are not backing down on this is a great sign of strength. And, again, at the very beginning, if you talked to me in 2017, I'd say Coinbase is trash. Their customer service sucked. Their fees were incredibly high. Their product selection was weak. Well, in that 7-year span, the product selection has gotten very good. Their customer service has significantly improved. What else? I had another complaint, but they've gotten better and better and better. And I guess as a young business, you listen to your customers and you modify and you get better and better over time. So all in all, I think this is pretty good. It said we made strides with regulatory clarity. They've pushed a lot of that. Now, it says here 83% of the G20 members advancing in crypto regulation. That is a great sign. I know that some people in here, like a John O'Donnell, would say, regulation, that's the controlling hand of government. In this case, it's just putting loose framework around it so people don't get screwed. I was listening to a podcast today with CoffeeZilla. I think everybody here has ever listened to CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla is like an investigative journalist who goes after, these scammers out there. And he was talking about SafeMoon and Sam Bankman-Fried and Serum and all these different tokens that are scams. And we have to put some regulatory framework around that to get that crap out of here. Once we get rid of the bad stuff, it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of what a good example of this would be. But, all right, a good example would be you go to Tijuana. And I know a lot of people here probably never been to Tijuana, but I live in Southern California. So for me, it's easy to go to Mexico, a couple hour, to the border, and I can walk right across the border and I'm directly in Tijuana. If you go back a decade, Tijuana was an absolute dump, garbage. You felt unsafe walking on the streets. It's prostitution, it's alcohol, it's drugs. It was bad, and it was dirty, filthy dirty. So how do you make that more attractive to somebody, right? How do you make something that at face value is trash, right? You look at it and it's like, God, this is a ghetto. It's a slum. I don't feel safe anywhere I go here. How do we fix that? Well, you start to remove the elements that cause people to think poorly about Tijuana. So you start to clean up the streets so it looks pretty. The streets are now clean and not covered in dirt and filth and junk. Then you start to improve the infrastructure to make people feel more safe. You add cameras. You have law enforcement, on the main drag so people can walk freely and not feel like they're going to get jumped or robbed. You start to remove those. You move all the strip clubs and prostitutes from the main drag. Yeah, they're still there, but they're not right in the public eye. You got to go elsewhere, right? So you start to clean up all this stuff. To me, you start to make Tijuana attractive. And that's the comparison I'm going to make here with crypto, is by having regulatory framework and guidelines and cleaning up the riffraff, getting rid of the trash that makes crypto get a bad name, which is rug pulls, thefts, scams, all that stuff. If we can get rid of that, then what we're left with is the good stuff. Now, it'll never be totally perfect. There'll always be some new scammer that comes up with some coin and tries to, scam someone. And that's where it's on us to do our due diligence in crypto. But we must have regulatory frameworks put in, and the fact that 83% of governments around in the G20 are working on it is fantastic. And hopefully it will come up here sooner and sooner and sooner. I'm for whoever furthers more adoption. Yep, me too. Options on crypto, yes, believable. They're already there. But I think what anybody in this room that's involved with crypto understands is you have a very unique market. So if you trade Apple shares, you trade them anywhere in the world, your Apple shares are traded on the NASDAQ, right? It's a centralized exchange. So you're getting the same quote, the same liquidity, the same pool. Oh, but I want to trade S&P futures. Well, you're on the CME, right? You're going straight to that exchange. You're trading those futures on that market, a centralized exchange. Now, for you Forex traders, you're like, oh, I want to trade the euro US dollar. Now it's a question of which broker do you want to use, right? Oh, I'm going to use Oanda. Well, if you're using if you're using Oanda, then what you have there is you're trading against their customer base, their pool of liquidity. Forex markets are fragmented. Each exchange, each broker has its own pool of liquidity. And that's the problem with crypto. You have every exchange is going to have their own distinct level of liquidity, different prices, which does raise the opportunity for arbitrage if you have the skill set to do that. Most of that's automated. But that stuff, is the big risk that we have with crypto, is just the diversified nature of it and fragmented market. Let's see. People live having fun trading. Euro Japanese. Hey, that's one of David Warner's favorite. The Euro Yen cross pair. He loves that one. I don't trade it personally, but he loves that one. The San Diego people live there now and commute back and forth to San Diego for work. Nice. I mean, look, I haven't been there in probably 5 years, and it was so much better. It actually felt nice. Now, granted, I felt fairly safe last time I was there. I imagine it's getting better and better and better. All right, let's see what do we got. FXEM back in the day. Oh man, that was a good one. Whew, till they imploded. All right, so that's the Coinbase thing. Now, the question I think that people are going to ask is, well, what now? What do we do with Coinbase? Where is it going to go from here? Well, obviously, when you have a huge move up like this, you got to look at what's the play. At this point, you missed it, right? If you weren't in on it, you missed it. So you're probably going to stay out of it. And if you are interested in Coinbase long-term, as I am, I do think that the long-term prognosis for Coinbase is going to be much, much higher, particularly if we start to see more assets being held at Coinbase. But right now, you're looking at a price of 188. We are literally right at this high we achieved right there, going back into December of last year. We're there right now. So that's about it. When did he want about 30? Oh, Lori, we went 35 years ago. The first part of my analogy should resonate with you. Did that place feel safe at all to you? There were some cool spots, but that place was dirty, filthy, gross, right? Like I'm just going to get catch something just by walking down the streets. Way, 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 way better today. Got to make it more of a tourist thing, right? You got to bring in revenue. And the locals there didn't have any money, so you need to make it appealing to bring in people with money. And that's the same thing with crypto, right? Let's make it more appealing by making it safe and bringing in the big fish with big money, and that drives up price because it's a limited supply. All right. So let me run through that, and then, it was absolutely, oh gosh, I hated TJ many, many, many moons ago. Gross place. All right, I'm going to go through, since this was meant to be a short show today. Again, I've got just too much stuff going on in my world. Let me run through our top 8 here, and then I'll go through any listener questions you might have. I do like the Coinbase, and then, actually, I'm going to go through trades that were made today. You got to love when things just don't work for you. So part of the reason for yesterday's show, at least for me, was walking through the process, just different things I look at, which is not recommendations at all. It's just I have my process, and all of you need to develop what your process is. Most of you probably already have it fairly cooked, but because we had a viewer who asked, I thought I would talk about my process. Now, I rambled through 9 different things yesterday, but all of those have rules. So here's Newmont, right? So Newmont, I was expecting there to be a rally up today. It did, but I didn't make the trade. I couldn't make the trade because it didn't follow my rules. It gapped up this morning and continued to run. So nice 3% move up, but oh well. Sly says stay out of TJ. The problem is, Sly, that TJ is directly across the border. It's so close. Rosarito's a bit further. Tecate, much further. So it's about ease. Let's look at Marriott. Same picture, right? We had a hammer formation. It gapped up this morning, never came back down below this red line at 236.41. So both of those, nope. Then you have FedEx, FDX. I did make a trade on FedEx today. I went long on it, so I didn't do options. I just went long the underlier, just 100 shares just for fun. And at one point, it was looking good, and all of a sudden came crashing back down. So I'm now in a losing position on this FedEx, following my rules, but I have a stop loss right where this blue line is. You can see, click on that bad boy there. 234.79, I think, is where my number is at, and that's going to be below the low from Tuesday. So I'm going against the trend. I'm not really that happy about this because it's most likely going to stop me out probably tomorrow, but I'm still going to hold the course here. All in all, it's going to cost me a loss of about $300. So if I do get stopped out on this, which we'll see if it happens. But I wanted to walk through that one. You have Kraft Heinz. Kraft Heinz did exactly what we thought it would do. Bounced out of that yellow demand zone. Rallied up today. Great. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when it was in the demand zone. You have Akamai, which yesterday was my favorite one, but just ripped down below that area of demand. And, I mentioned this on the show yesterday that this could potentially be a great trade. You've got this absolute panic mode going on the part of sellers. We had that huge capitulation volume yesterday, but I didn't pull the trigger on this one. Just didn't feel right. And then as it started to sell off this morning, I'm very glad I did not pull the trigger on this one. So Akamai continuing to fall. At some point it'll find a bottom, but I don't see anything on the left-hand side of my chart here that's appealing and making me want to buy Akamai right now. So I will sidestep that one. You had WMB. Here's another one. Right in that yellow area demand yesterday, almost came back down today, and then just ripped on up to the upside. So nice bounce off an area of demand on high volume. So great technicals there. You had Electronic Arts. Remember, going against the trend is tough to do. We talked about Electronic Arts on their announcement, coming right in that overhead supply at 143 today. Just broke above it, so no short opportunity there. And it never really sold off at all. You had General Electric, which is similar picture, right? We had it at a high point. Capped up today and kept going, so no short there either. And then Lyft, which I did take a lift last night, and it is continuing to lift off another 16% up today. And just look at the volume pouring into that. Lyft and Uber have been just phenomenal for the past couple of days. Obviously, Lyft a much more dramatic move to the upside, but Lyft, you've got this gap and go on Uber as well. So all in all, there you go. Those are the 9 trades. So the only one that I took is a losing trade on that one, but hey, it's the nature of the markets, right? We'll see how it pans out. We were in Cozumel. I liked Cozumel. I went many, many years ago. Oh, yeah. Wait, who doesn't have a passport? If you guys want to yeah, everybody should have a passport. And, I should do a whole series of just basic life videos. One of those being, if you never even plan on leaving the country, get a passport. Because you never know when someone goes, hey, do you want to go? I'll pay for your ticket to go to XYZ country, and I'll pay for everything. You're like, oh, I don't have a passport. Yeah, no, get one. They last for 10 years. Everyone should have a passport and be ready to go at a drop of the hat. There is a lot in this world to see, and you all should check out as much as possible. One of my biggest regrets is I don't travel enough. I used to travel a lot, but anxiety all of a sudden kicked in on airplanes, so I've been a bit tentative to travel, but I'll be traveling more here soon. All right, let me go through our top 8. Dollar index, the Dixie. I thought there'd be a pullback. We've got a pullback coming. It's been a pretty nice down day for the dollar index at down 0.41%. The floor here should be right around 103.95 will be your bottom. If it gets below that, then we may have to see this whole uptrend be reversed here. But right now, just a little pullback, no problem on that big breakout. That should happen. Bitcoin, you have a shooting star as of today on those Bitcoin futures. That's not a very good sign, although I do still think that there's a pullback coming here for Bitcoin. Pullback coming for Bitcoin. I don't want anyone would say that to me. Say what? I'm too bad. I don't know what I said to you, Dave. I've been waiting to have your travel credit. Yeah, I know. He is right now, Pepe, right now my travel buddy. I asked him to come on, but he's like, oh, I'm traveling. He was in Thailand for 3 months, and now he is going to Italy for 2 months. So, great. We offered the cruise to our daughter and her guys so they could get passports. I'd agree. Yeah, awesome. Love cruises as well. All right, so keep your eye on Bitcoin tomorrow. That is a shooting star. I hate to say it because obviously I want it to go up, but you're bound to have a pullback here at some point. Bitcoin, that low of 51,605 on the futures looks like your potential break point here. So keep an eye on it. It looked strong today, breaking above that 62,000 or 52,000 mark. We actually broke above 53,000 on the futures, but yeah, you got potential for some pullback here on Bitcoin. All right, your 10-year. 10-year had a little bit of a pullback as expected, came right back into the origin of this big move on Tuesday. We'll see if that continues to have a positive effect for that 10-year yield, but today we're down just a little bit. Your NASDAQ up 0.18%, so nothing really exciting here. Gold and silver. Now gold, we came back into these lows we established back on the 17th and 25th of January, so that's good. I still have the yellow box as being in play, range bound, so all in all, pretty darn good here. Hey Les, have a good one. Good to see you. Vote on those board members. That's right. One I really was happy about, SLV. I was so close to selling calls against my position today, but I'm going to wait. I think that you're going to get a breakout move here to the upside for SLV, even though that trend has been looking pretty aggressive to the downside. We have found a floor right at $20, which we talked about on Tuesday's show. We'll have to wait and see here, but I did not sell calls against my positions because I think we're going to rally back to the upside. And the premium just wasn't there. If I went out to the March expiration of SLV and tried to sell, let's say, the 22s, which would be right where my cursor is at, the premium was less than 1%. And I feel like you're going to get some move up here, so I'm going to wait and maybe sell a little bit higher up when we get there. Okay, let's go to number 3, podium time. Bronze metal goes to the S&P 500, which had an all-time intraday closing high yet again. It's crazy. It was fantastic how it goes. But you had a 0.57% gain for the S&P, closing at 5,046 on the session. Technically, still looking great, right? We talked about a pullback being normal. You had that nice down day on Tuesday, which we talked about from the shooting star on Monday, and now all of a sudden coming right back up. So it feels to me like S&P is going higher unless something changes. Number 2, silver metal goes to crude oil. I've been talking about this from a bullish perspective because, again, you're making higher highs and higher lows going back to December. So all in all, I still feel like that's intact. We had one down day yesterday. Big deal. Big green candle today, erasing most of yesterday's losses. Your challenge point was going to be these highs right here. Let me just get rid of some of these lines, which don't serve a purpose anymore. And your challenge point is going to be right around 79.30. Right, that's the next kind of tough area. Notice we hit that on the 29th of January. We hit that on the 30th of November, and we also hit it on the 14th of November. So all in all, looking pretty good. I'm bullish on crude oil. And finally, the Russell 2000. Man, this thing is just like one of those rubber super balls bouncing all over the place. We had that gigantic down day on Tuesday, 4.5%. Then all of a sudden it was up 2.5% yesterday and another 2.5% today. So we're back above. We're actually positive for the week for the Russell, challenging probably tomorrow that 2,079 mark, which is an overhead supply zone that goes back into December. Oh, there we go. Let's see what I got here. Tom's great. Let's see if you got to show something right. Merlin went to a concert. In the market, some stuff went up, some stuff went down. Merlin picked the one loser. Yep. Not that crypto's great. I think we're looking at innovation is great. Technology is great, which again is why you're seeing things like NVIDIA soar. It's funny, talking to some trader friends last night, everyone just is, and how about NVDA? Everyone keeps just talking about NVIDIA. It's like, man, I'm just, it smells ripe for a gigantic pullback. However, your earnings for NVIDIA next Wednesday, that will probably be the most exciting part of the upcoming week here. Should be pretty good. Yeah, I think he got it. He got it right, Dave. Pretty good. All right, let's see. What else you guys want to discuss? That's all I really had for today. I mean, I could go look at some of the economic calendar stuff, which it was decent. All right, I'll bring in those numbers. So here we go. So we can look at, first off, I'll just talk about the retail sales numbers. So the retail sales numbers were declined at a much bigger pace than expected. I think that should have created some jitters, but it really didn't feel like it moved the mark much at all. We were expecting it to go from 0.4% to negative 0.2. Came out at negative 0.8. And on the big picture here, if I zoom in a little bit and get past the whiplash from COVID, it doesn't look great. But, we've done this many times where you have your sub-zero, and then all of a sudden the next report is a positive zero. What we're looking for here is going to be a trend that happens in retail sales. So it is a bad number for the day for retail sales or for the month, but it's a string of them that matters. Like having a bad trade doesn't mean that your trading sucks. It just means you had a bad trade. So we'll see what happens on the next month. Now, other than that, you're seeing manufacturing kind of change directions here. You had, let's start with the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. That was at -10. They thought it was going to get a little bit better, move up to -0.8. So still contracting, but not at an alarming rate. They came out at actually optimism and growth at 5.2%. That's pretty impressive. And you can see here the trend of that has been getting better and better and better, which, of course, when you have more manufacturing, that's more sales, that's economic growth. So all in all, that is very good news. And that's the Philly Fed manufacturing numbers. Here's the Empire State, which I put a little bit more weight on, more emphasis. That was at -43. I mean, that's dire. That's real bad. You notice the last time we were at anything close to -43 was the COVID shutdown. So you have to ask yourself, how on earth are we getting such a huge negative reading when things are open? Right? COVID, I understand manufacturing being an issue because stuff was shut down. Well, all of a sudden the new number came out at negative, or was expected to be -13. We came out at -2.4. So actually a great improvement in manufacturing, even though there still is contraction at -2.4. All in all, very good because it's closing that gap and looks like it's getting more positive. Now, that is part of the equation. If we look at this inflation stuff I've been talking about, get your eyes on import prices. Notice that import prices down here were below zero. And what does that do? Let me ask you, if I have import prices lower than, they're contracting, meaning import prices are dropping, what's that going to do to inflation? What should it do? This should improve inflation numbers. And you'll notice that it has acted dramatically. We went from import prices increasing to from 2.5% in April of 2022 to contracting 1.4% in August of 2022. That's where you saw a big, swing in prices. That's where inflation numbers significantly dropped. Now look what's going on here. You're now seeing inflation numbers potentially going to start to surge again because of import prices. Now, keep in mind, that is only 1 point data, but the trend looks like it's now not contracting, starting to expand a little bit. So this number here was not good at all today, having a 0.8 number. That's the highest level of import price increases that we've seen going back into April of 2022. So not a good sign, but again, it's 1 point data. Let's see what next month brings. But if we start stacking up more of these big blue bars here and starts getting above 1, then inflation's not done. We're paying more prices for these imports. It's going to get kind of ugly. And that's the major stuff. I could go into business inventories and capacity utilization, but I won't dive into that now. All right, what else do I got? I got a bunch of chat in here. Let's see. Get it on S&P on lower time frame today. Oh, got in. 5-1, great. I mean, one thing's for sure, there were some nice moves. We had some great moves. John, you didn't save 24 minutes. You wanted to watch those 24 minutes. So there's a Jim Cramer site. It used to be out there because I can't stand watching Jim Cramer. But what he does is this site actually will take everything he says and summarize it, so you don't have to watch him and just say, here's the stock he likes, here's his price. Maybe that's what we need to start doing here. Is 2024 a good time to buy a new vehicle? I think I need more time to think about that now. I'm not sure. I would say yes, because you're seeing on the. I think I may have deleted it. Let me see if I have it here still. Yeah, I deleted those numbers. The prices for cars are dropping because the sales numbers. But just the most recent data came out showing prices starting to drop. I'd have to do a deeper dive into that one. I don't know if it's a safer time to buy or a good time to buy. I think that it might be, although it depends if you're paying cash or if you're going to be, buying and using a loan, because obviously the rates are going to be much higher now. Oliver says no, maybe used cars. Yeah, I want to look at that. If it's a rising rate environment and you buy, it shouldn't impact you if you pay cash. Who cares? But if you are buying with the loan, then that's going to increase the cost of your vehicle significantly depending on what rate you get. Typically, automakers have teaser rates that they give you, 3, 4, or 5%. But those, it used to be 0%. I remember, you get 0% financing for 5 years. How do you go wrong there? Pepe says, you were waiting, I believe, for the Ford to have overstock inventory. So, yeah, I really was. I was thinking about it, the Ford F-150 Lightning. But at this point right now, I don't need another car. My truck is great. My truck is, it's old. It's 2016. That's weird. It seems old now, but my truck's 8 years old. I've got like 60,000 miles on it, maybe less, maybe 50,000 miles on it. Run super reliable. So it'd be nice to have a new vehicle, but I think I'm just going to stay with mine and save money and invest it and grow it even more. How about buying a house in 2024? Nope. I wouldn't buy a house in 2024. I wouldn't buy a house right now, period. My long-term forecast for the market, at least in my opinion, I know some of you disagree with me, which is totally fine. I look at the 10-year yield, and just based off of my conversations with Bill Addis, understanding U.S. government debt, understanding how the yields will be impacted by more and more bonds being sold, I believe that this number here is going to rise significantly from 4.23% on the 10-year. The higher that goes, the more expensive homes are going to get. Expensive mortgages are going to get. At a certain point, it will start to hurt the housing market, and then you'll see these markets drop in price. So I would wait for the housing market to roll over. If you look at IYR, you've had prices depressed a little bit, but I think you wait for a bigger decline in prices. If we look at year-over-year growth, let me see if I can bring that chart up for you guys here. Let me create a filter here real quick, and we'll go none. I'm going to show you guys just the United States. We're going to show you just housing, non-housing. Then I can show you some of the growth rates, at least for, oh, great, didn't do it. I saw something interesting about home prices rising drastically in late 2024. It could. I think what will happen is if people believe that these rates are going to go higher, then there's going to be a surge to buy houses now at the current rates. Because if they don't, they're going to be paying higher prices down the road. So that's part of it. I just think the market's having a correction. So here's the important part, which is this Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. As long as these prices continue to go up, and we've seen over the last 4 months, actually 6 months, a significant increase in home prices. Great. Anybody here who owns a home, you're loving this. Ideally, what you're waiting for is a bigger sell-off. Now, this sell-off we saw here from May of 2022 till June of 2023, that doesn't necessarily mean that prices were imploding. That just means that growth stopped, right? So you had people that were buying a house, flipping it 3 months later and making $100,000 down here. Just tons of it. It was crazy. What's happening is the prices aren't going up as much, so that may dissuade some people from buying them to flip, right? If you know that prices are not increasing, and you're a house flipper, and I'm sure we have some people in here who are flipping houses, when prices go sideways and you're a flipper, you better be finding something at a deep discount to current market value. Because in a roaring bull market for real estate, you can buy a house at current price, do some renovations, flip it, and make money because the overall market's bringing everything up. But if it's sideways, your only way you're going to make money as a flipper is to buy something at a significantly lower price, do your remodel, and you're still going to be at market value when you make those adjustments. So that's a challenge for flippers here, and I think that's going to have an impact on prices as well. John said, I agree with Merlin that housing cost versus income is way out of balance. Oh, yeah. It's been nuts. And I think when we looked yesterday, or I don't know what day it was, at the inflation data, I think that's very interesting. And you look at the inflation numbers and kind of how it's impacting housing. The rents prices going up. Major component of inflation is rents. That was kind of an eye-opener to me. I didn't realize it was as much as that chart showed the other day. So, with lower interest rates and dwindling supply. So, with lowering interest rates, when you look at that 10-year, I would make the statement that they're not lowering right now. Interest rates are going to be moving back up, and they have been since December. So we're seeing this trickle back up. Yes, back in December we went from over 7% to in the sixes, right? So that was a big reprieve for a lot of buyers. But now all of a sudden the trend looks like it's starting to move back up for that 10-year, which means yields are going to be increasing. So I disagree with the lower interest rates. I think it's starting to move up, Dave. The dwindling supply, I think that depends on where you're at, right? There's certainly places that have an abundance of supply, and then there's others that there's a lack of supply. So all in all, I would think, at least from some of the data I've read, and I'm not a complete observer of the real estate markets, we are seeing lower supply. So certainly when you have low supply and demand is high, that drives prices up. So there might be another surge here, but at a certain point, I think the demand will slow down because of the higher cost to buy. Right? Now, we all know that you could buy something, let's say you locked in at a 9%, 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which sounds atrocious. Well, in the next few years, let's say prices do drop and all of us or yields do drop, and you can refinance at 5%, right? That's what a lot of people do. That's what I did. I've done it several times before, buying at a rate and then refinancing at a lower rate, which I'm sure most of you have done as well. But we'll see. I think that at some point you're going to start to price people out of the market. Okay, let me go into economic calendar for tomorrow just because I have to run. I want to get some stuff done on my end here. So let me remove all of my filters and I can show you what's happening for tomorrow, which is Friday. Loving it. I love Friday. All right. Why am I in January? That's weird. Let's go into February and go to the 16th. So you look at the 16th, we do have one more piece of inflationary data. Now, again, the PPI number was higher than expectations. CPI number was higher than expectations. The PPI number for tomorrow is expected to increase. So I think that may have been adjusted. But if you look at where we're at here on the producer price index numbers, we're right around 0, which is great. I mean, if we stay around 0, 0.1, negative 0.1, that's fine. I think that's where they want to be. So anything outside that, like if we come up, let's say a 0.2 or 0.3%, then I think we got problems for Friday's session. But all in all, PPI should be a market supporter. It should be a market supporter. Correct, Margaret. No show on President's Day. Yep. I was going to make that announcement yesterday. And then otherwise for the U.S., you have building permits and housing starts, which are both, actually the building permits expected to increase, housing starts expected to decline just a little bit. But remember, we get into the summer months, construction really starts to increase. So those numbers should start to go up with expectation. Russell Wilson's house is still for sale down the street at $2 million discount. Wow. John, it's one of those things, especially if someone's desperate to sell. Is Russell Wilson... Is he out? Is he done in Denver? I think he was. I know all the drama last week or last season. Go in there and offer him 20. I'll bet you he'd sell it to you for 20. Come on, John, let's do it. Let's buy his house for $20 million. I wouldn't pay $20 million for a house. I mean, that'd be one epic house, but I don't need that kind of house. All right, let's discard that one, and I am going to finish up here. So for tomorrow, it's Whiskey Friday. I have no specific topic. What is it you guys want to talk about? I come up with things every day, typically based off of listener questions. I actually had one today, which I was going to try to stretch into tomorrow's show, which I may do. I am going to do that. So I had it right here to ask the question, but we will save it for tomorrow. But you guys got to let me know if there's something that you want covered on a Friday session. All in all, turned out to be a pretty darn good week, but I'm sure there's much more to go on. Here in Bellevue, when he was with the Seahawks. He still hasn't sold that place? Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to live up there. Too cold, buddy. I know you like Washington, but too cold, too gloomy. I need sunshine and warm weather. When it's 50 degrees, I can complain that I'm freezing. When it's 50 degrees, you're outside in a t-shirt and flip-flops going, it's so warm outside. No thanks. All right, that's going to do it, guys. If you have anything that, what brand of computers do you use? Okay, I can talk about that. I don't use a brand. I don't use a brand. Candlestick patterns? Okay. We'll talk about some candlestick patterns. I'll see if we can mix that in. I want to do a full show on both of those. Actually, Margaret, I did do a full show on building a trading computer, but we can talk about brands of computers. Sure, why not? All right, that'll do it for me, everybody. I'm going to head out of here and get some of my stuff done. Hope you had a great day. Keep your eyes open for tomorrow. What's going to happen with this Coinbase earnings? Obviously, the big gap up, but will it continue? Does it provide a potential short opportunity? I'm not going to touch it short. Yeah, I'm hoping that my positions move back to the upside here and I don't get stopped out tomorrow, but we'll see. So take care, everybody. Email me if you have any comments, questions, things you want to discuss. Just go to TraderMerlin@gmail.com and send them in or put comments down below any of the YouTube videos. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.